certified doula. And the reason I chose to join, I guess just growing up, I have a lot of siblings, so seeing how my family worked with going through pregnancy, labor, delivery, and then my own experience with my son, he's here, with my son and going through that, realizing how much easier it would have been. My husband was awesome, but having an extra person who knew what was going on. So yeah, I just want to be able to be that for other people.
Thanks for sharing. Cass, do you mind going next? Oh, we have you muted.
Thank you. I'm Cass. I am a full spectrum doula. I've been a doula for like 3 years now. I wanted to become a doula because of my experience with my first son in the hospital. After I was mistreated and I knew something was off and wasn't sure exactly what, it led me into doula work. Why I wanted to be part of the collective, I'm a facilitator, so I am one of the teachers. And why I wanted to be one of the teachers is because I see that there are sorry, I got notifications going. There are not that many doulas here who have accessible pricing, or they're just not super accessible. So it's a need that we have here. So we need more doulas.
Thank you. Symphony?
Hi, everyone. My name is Symphony Davis. I am a doula student and a part of the Day One Doula Collective. I decided to join or apply for the Day One Doula Collective because I love everything that Kira has put together as far as working with the women in our community. I see Black and Brown women struggling so much to just have their voice be heard. And as a doula, we get to advocate and support and help. And I've seen so many births myself, and seen women be shunned or be overtalked by healthcare professionals or overtalked by their partner, their husband. And I just want to do everything that I can to bring that to a minimum, especially in my own community.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Mariah.
Hey, I'm Mariah. I'm an Indigenous full spectrum doula and a student midwife. The reason that I wanted to be a part of the Day One Doula Collective is because I wanted to be a part of something that was actually really big and really special. And we need a lot more doulas in the community, especially colored doulas. So anything to be a part of that.
Thank you all. So I am going to open up the floor for our panelists. So we do have questions that the panelists have been provided with, so we'll kind of run through those. And then if we do have any questions from any of you that are watching tonight, feel free to drop those in the chat box or in the comments and we'll read through those. So I want to open it up and any one of you can answer, but how has training been thus far? Can anyone briefly just talk about, the training structure, and then talk about how their experience has been?
I can go. For me, it's been amazing. I feel like we are getting so much information. We're getting taught so much more than probably most people would get. And we're getting it from people who are hands-on. It's not just, oh, you guys were trained to teach. Like, this is who you guys are, what you guys do. And it's just so beautiful to see so many women of color. I think that's probably one of my favorite parts, is just seeing a bunch of women of color working together, going towards the same thing. And it's just been making me really excited. Like, I'm looking forward to finishing and working with all of these ladies once we're done with this training.
So I just want to add, oh, sorry, Liana. I just wanted to add for context that our doula training program is 20 sessions where our doulas are meeting with a group of facilitators on a weekly basis. Right now, our sessions are virtual and they are during the evening hours from 6 to 8 p.m. And we are jam packing so much information into a 2-hour session, but our doulas are going to be very well versed in the skills that they need in order to provide for the women in our community. But they are currently on session 8 this upcoming week. And I'm just excited to see and hear more from them about how their experience has been. But I just wanted to give you all a little bit of that information as far as how our program is currently structured. Liana, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I've been really enjoying the program. I feel like we're getting all the information that we need to be a real help. And it's not just a quick here, this is what you need to know. It's very in-depth and very involved, and I really enjoy that part. And even though we're learning so much, I just know it's going to be applicable to what we're doing and how we care for our clients in the future.
Symphony, we'd love to hear from you how your experience has been during the training program. And I know you recently were able to view a childbirth education class as a part of the observations that's required through our training program. Can you speak a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, I've absolutely loved the training, the course so far. I tell all my friends and family, like, I'm in school. I don't even call it training. This is full-blown school. I love how it's 20 full sessions. And like Liana had said, we will be able at the end of this to provide actual support, actual help, and not just always telling our clients like, oh, ask Google or this, that, and the third. Of course, we will encourage our clients to do their own research, but the amount of information that we're learning is absolutely like, you can't put a price tag on it. It's been so amazing, especially as a woman myself that one day will, have children. I feel so prepared as far as the physiological and emotional side of things. Like Kira did say, we did go to a few, we're going to these childbirth training courses on the weekends and kind of rotate on a rotation type basis. And so I was there, I think 2 weekends ago, and the training was absolutely amazing. It was several hours, very extensive, and we were able to ask questions. So of course there was myself and 2 other doula students, and we asked plenty of questions, and the instructor was so informative. She was so informative and answered everything. And by the beautiful thing is that there were 3 expecting couples there, and by the end of the class, one of the couples decided to change their birth plan based on the things that the day one doulas, the questions that we were asking for the instructor, and based on her responses, they actually decided to change their birth plan for something that was more intuitive and just healthier for them. So it's just beautiful in that aspect to see the work being done right there in front of our eyes. It was amazing.
Nice, thank you. How has it been for the facilitators? I would love to hear from you, just kind of your thoughts on how our training program has been, just kind of the strengths that you see within our group.
I think it's been really, really amazing. So as a doula, the training that I've had has not been this deep and this extensive and this educational. So being able to provide that kind of support to doulas that are going to be new and in the community is really amazing. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I agree. I also have never taken a training so extensive. So it's been weird being on the other side of that because there aren't many examples of that that we see. It's also been fun, like coming up with the topics and working together with like other doulas to get truly a full spectrum doula view. Like you're not just getting one person teaching you, you're getting what, like 5, 6 people. So I don't think there's much getting left behind. And I think that'll be really helpful for these doulas to start with a lot of what we didn't have to start with, that we are like learning for years. A lot of them are getting that like right off the bat. So
Thank you for sharing. So any one of the panelists, feel free to answer our question. So the question that we have is, what impact are you hoping to make as a community-based doula program? We talked about some of the reasons why you applied in your experience thus far, but what is the true impact that you're hoping to make?
I can go. I'm hoping that I can make a positive impact in my community. I really want to be that bridge for families transferring or transitioning to parenthood. And I just want them to have a positive birth experience and to feel confident in their birth choices and know that they have the support that they need through these different transitions in their life.
Thank you. Now, I know a lot, well, what I've seen out in the community is that Black women don't feel like Black women have doulas at their births. Like, that's a common conversation that I have with individuals in the community, like, oh, Black women have doulas, or like women in general just have doulas. I'd love to hear from any of you, if any of you had a doula for your birthing experience and what that experience was like. And any of the panelists can answer that if you've had a doula, or if you've been a doula for a woman in the community and what that experience was like for them.
Yeah, I can talk about the difference of having a doula and not having one. I didn't have one for my first birth, and I didn't really go well because I didn't know, I wasn't informed. And I also wasn't provoked by my doula to really think of, well, by not having a doula. I didn't have a doula the first time. And I just feel like, I don't know, I didn't think about the emotional side or the spiritual side or anything of it. And the second time when I did have a doula, I did actually think more like introspectively, and I felt like I had more of a relationship with my baby too, because that was encouraged. I wasn't really thinking of that the first time around. So I don't know, you have a bigger opportunity for informed choice because you actually know your choices when you have a doula helping you learn those.
Would anyone else like to speak regarding the question? If you've had a doula for your own birthing experience and what that was like, or if you've serviced a client before or a family member, and that was their first experience with additional support or a doula, what that was like for them.
So I had a doula when I was pregnant with my first child. That was probably the main thing that made me want to be a doula. Basically, she provided me support that I feel nobody else, family, friend wise, could have supported me. Definitely not provider wise either. It's a really deep connection that you make with your doula. But I also didn't have a partner when I was pregnant, so having someone to rely on and actually like feel like you're going through a pregnancy with sort of is super, super special. She also got me to actually think about different things in my pregnancy and labor and birth that I would not have known before. It was really important because the things that I had heard when I was pregnant about how pregnancy was and how labor went, it was kind of scary. But being able to talk to a doula about it really put everything into perspective. She got very logical, but also, like Cass said, spiritual. And it just made the whole experience a lot easier for me.
Thank you for sharing, Mariah. Yeah, quite often you really don't hear the positive birth stories. You always hear the very traumatic ones or the bad experiences, or you see the super exaggerated versions of birth on media and TV and on the news, and birth is nothing like that. So I'd be interested to hear from any of the panelists, if you do have children or you've supported families during the birthing experience, how was your experience? And if you did have any additional support, if there were any differences between your first, second, or third pregnancies.
I can answer. I have 3 daughters. My first one, I wasn't as informed as I thought I was about as far as my delivery went. So a lot of interventions were made. I was in labor with her the longest. My husband was really supportive in trying to help me through it, but it was definitely a process. And I felt like the hospital just like this medical staff just wanted to get her out, like get my daughter out instead of like focusing on me and how to help me get her out faster. They were just trying to figure out every medical intervention to get her out faster. So with my second daughter, I had a better birth plan, and I think it went easier mainly because she was born the day after Christmas. So there was just fewer staff to mess with me as it were. And then my last one, actually, Kiera was my doula for that. So she helped put me at ease beforehand, but I actually went to labor a week early, so the baby came a little faster than she could get there. Um, and that had to be my most relaxing birth. I felt the most prepared for that birth. I felt like my medical team did respect my decisions more. Um, and I did have like one medical intervention that I didn't want, but that was mainly because I needed it. And it was just overall the best birthing experience I got. So I felt like the more babies I had, the more educated I was, the easier the labor went. And just knowing I had extra support was nice. Because even after baby was out, Kiera still came with, a congratulations balloon and my fruit, because that's all I asked for was a bowl of fruit.
Thanks for sharing, Liana. Now, I do believe, Symphony, that you've supported quite a few women during births, or you've been there to observe. I'd be interested to kind of hear from you on what those experiences have been like as you start to transition into a true active birth worker role. Like, how has that experience has been?
Yeah, supporting so many women through birth and pregnancy has played the biggest role in me wanting to be a doula, actually. I have plenty of cousins that have so many beautiful, the brown chunky babies, like we say, and just helping them through that process and being there while they were giving birth. Like, I've actually helped a woman deliver her baby naturally, and just holding her hand and being there with her, and watching her, the healthcare providers take care of her afterwards. And I was like right there in the room trying to make sure that they were doing everything properly and treating her the way that she should be treated has been such an amazing experience. And it's kind of interesting because once I did my research about what a doula is and what we do and things like that, I was like, wow, I've actually done this quite a few times. So I'm so excited now to step out into my own community and do the same thing, but with more preparation and education and readiness and knowing what I'm stepping into. I've also assisted births in Spain, actually. I studied abroad in Europe for about 5 months and helped with various surgeries and births and cesareans and things like that. And I started realizing in each and every single birth that I witnessed or that I assisted, that there was always someone trying to talk over the woman while she was giving birth. There was always someone there to tell her, oh, you are getting an epidural or you're not getting an epidural. And there's no right or wrong answer. The only right answer is whatever is right for that woman and whatever she wants. So I feel like it's definitely contributed to my passions, but yeah, it's led me here and it's been amazing.
Nice, thank you. And Allison, I want to hear from you about just the opportunities that you've had working out in community or being in community as you're supporting families throughout your journey into birth work and throughout the training program. What has that been like?
So for me, I feel like a lot of my friends growing up kind of knew this is the avenue that I wanted to go on. Any type of like doula work, midwifery, all of that. That's always been something that I've been passionate about. So I've had plenty of opportunities with my friends back home in Kentucky when they were getting closer to labor and delivery, like sitting and watching them going through the process of what it looked like to have contractions. I have one friend, I think she had 2 kids already and she was on her 3rd. And so when I was with her and she was like having contractions, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's time. She's like, no, like this is just normal, So I actually got to kind of be trained by just friends experiencing it. My mother having an abundance of children. So being able to just sit and watch her as well. And then friends here, I think like 3, 4, especially during the pandemic, 3 or 4 friends have recently had kids, and a lot of them were new parents. I want to say at least 3 of the 4 were new parents, and being able to sit with them, even over like FaceTime, and just talk to them, talk them through it, talk to their spouses, their partners, and just let them know like, hey, I'm here. Any questions you have, and they would ask, what can I do to help her? What can I do right now? And a lot of it was kind of just support, support, support. Whatever she's asking, just do it. Try to take her mind off of it, or if my friends didn't know how to talk to their partners about what they wanted, like telling me what they wanted, and then I can translate it to their partners in a way that's not frustrated. So yeah, that's been my experience.
Nice, thank you so much. So moving on to our next question, what are the most critical changes that we must make to face the future more effectively so that women have access to doula support? And what's more important is that women know that doulas exist. Like, what are some of the things that you think as doulas is important for us to kind of start addressing now so that we're able to inform community that, one, that we're here, and that if there are any potential challenges or barriers as it relates to access, what are some things that we can do?
I would say educate, educate, educate. It's amazing how many people don't even know doulas exist. They don't know who or what they are. So I would say for me, the biggest thing is getting out and going to community events and just making a name known. Like, we are doulas. This is what we do. We're here to support, especially in this day and age. A lot of people don't have partners. A lot of people have to go through pregnancy and labor and delivery all by themselves, including with COVID. So just being able to, I don't know, break down what a doula actually is, and reminding people that we are available and we're willing to help. We're willing to be that advocate, especially for new moms, new families who don't know what to do. They feel like they have to just say yes to everything the doctors say, and that's not always the case. So yeah, just educating as much as we can.
I think creating connections is a big thing that we need to focus on. Just like pretty much reiterating what Allison said. People know of doulas, but they don't necessarily know where to find them, and they don't know enough about them. So just being able to establish ourselves within the community and make connections would be really important. And then also for us to just stay motivated and stay on top of things and keep fighting.
I think one thing that was pivotal during our training program, during those first few sessions, was talking about the difference between doulas and midwives, in the phrase that doulas coach, midwives catch. Like, that is a very simple phrase that everybody can, it clicks. Your doula is your coach, your midwife is there to actually catch your baby. And I think that's just a huge opportunity for us to educate community on the fact that your doulas are literally like your birthing coach or your birthing best friend, as one of our other students during our course mentioned. And that's kind of stuck with our group, birthing best friends. But would anyone else like to address that question before we move on to the next?
Like to piggyback from Allison and Mariah's point, with them saying that a lot of people don't know about doulas, and that's so true. And then another problem that we have that's kind of connected to that is in the Black and Brown communities, a lot of times when we do know what a doula is, and it's like, oh, it's a birth coach, it's your, your birth bestie, it's your, the person that's going to support you through this emotionally. A lot of Black and Brown women immediately think like, oh, that's for white women, or that's for rich women, or rich white, things like that. The same way that a lot of times there's this stigma behind people who will cook for you, or, do things like that. We're kind of like, oh, that's for, people in a certain class economically. And we will really be raising awareness through the Day One Doula Collective that that's just not true. Everyone is deserving of support. Everyone is deserving of empathy and love and, you know, someone to listen to them and someone to advocate for them. And it's about time. If having a doula is a luxury, it is about time that Black and Brown women are afforded these luxuries, because why not? You know, we deserve to live a luxurious life and to be supported, and, you know, to have someone tell us like, hey, these are your rights, this is what you deserve, this is what you're, you know, allowed to have during your birth, whatever you want. So I'm really, really, really excited to step into that journey. And if I can make a Black woman feel like she's living, you know, the bougie, luxurious lifestyle, then baby, I'm ready for it. I'm very excited.
Thanks for sharing. That transitioned us very well into our next question. So the question is, what is inclusion and how do we address it in birth work? And this is open to any of the panelists.
I feel like inclusion is just making sure everyone is included in the community. And so what that would look like in birth work is making sure that everyone, regardless of their race, their gender identity, their sexual orientation, their disability, regardless of anything, that they should get the same equal care all around. Everyone should get the same equity, equal treatment. You shouldn't look at someone just because they're in a certain group or subgroup that they can't do this. They all deserve that same peaceful birth. They all have the right to have their voices heard and their medical decisions be made through them and not made for them.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to talk about inclusion specifically in birth work? When I think about that, I think about fathers utilizing inclusive language, things of that nature. And I know we've talked a bit about that in our training course so far, but I want to hear from you all, because I can talk about it all day, but I definitely want to pull from the experts here today, just to hear your thoughts on inclusion.
I'll go. I think normalizing, like, not only doing super expensive births, like making scholarships available or doing like sliding scale services, so you can have the funds that are like sustain you, but you're also reaching different people who wouldn't otherwise do that. Because like Symphony was kind of talking about, how a lot of people think, oh, doulas are just for rich people, doulas are just for white people. It's like, well, a lot of doulas are. Like, that is a really large amount of doulas, especially in our community. And like, they're really, like, there aren't a lot of doulas who do not cheap work, but more accessible work, or have scholarships available, or apply for grants to do these things. Like, a lot of doulas are really expensive, and that is a barrier.
Thanks for sharing, Cass. I had to make sure Mariah wasn't trying to unmute. I saw her adjusting. But good. So I do know, like, I'm just going to use Liana for example here. During her birthing experience, her husband was very, very engaged. And I actually also had another birth just over the weekend on Friday. Friday night, I was called into a birth. And when I got there, I really didn't have anything to do. Like, the room was just full of oxytocin. Like, Dad was amazing. And like, after the birth, I looked at him and I'm like, have you considered being a doula? Like, you really should. And he was like, did I do good? And I'm like, you did amazing. Like, he was there 100%, just hugging his partner, going over, positive self-talk, words of affirmation, providing that physical support. We were able to do a lot of things just in collaboration by helping Mom support and get into a position that, felt natural for her to push. But it was just amazing. And I think oftentimes providers don't do a good enough of a job including fathers into the conversation as it relates to just birth wishes, what they want from that experience, and what they actually have capacity to do. And during my birthing experience with this family over the weekend, Dad made made it very clear when I walked in, like, because I asked once she was crowning, I said, hey, do you want to switch spots? And he's like, oh, no, because I can't look. I was like, are you sure you don't want to switch spots? He's like, no, I know what I can do. And it's fine for you to stay here. But we had that conversation. And he felt included, and he had capacity for providing support from the waist up, and that was completely fine. But these are the conversations that we need to have with fathers, because oftentimes I see women kind of just determine that you're my partner, you're here, you're going to be my main support person. Dad may not have capacity, or partner may not have capacity to be your primary support person. And it's okay to ask for help, but it's also okay to start to have those conversations if you are expecting, like, hey, what are you comfortable with? Are you okay with, advocating for me in the event that something goes left? Do you know what to say? Are you okay talking to the nursing staff about my wishes? If for whatever reason, I feel intimidated or I shut down, but we can't just say, partners and dads, like, we just can't determine that for them. We have to have those conversations with them. And medical providers and doulas also need to have those conversations too.
I just wanted to add to that point because, for years, they weren't even allowed to be in the room. So, that makes sense that now some of them might be a little freaked out by the whole idea, because for a long time, they couldn't even be in there.
And I was going to add to that too. Like, that is, even though my son came early, that's something that me and my husband discussed way early on. Like, okay, do you want to be in the room? How much do you want to be a part of in the room? And my husband actually caught my son when we delivered. We had so many people in the room. Oh my goodness. Like my mom, my mother-in-law, my aunt, my older brother, younger sister, like we had a full house in there. And all the support we had, I probably wouldn't do it again, but all the support we had, I think that also encouraged my husband, like, okay, I can do this, and he was nervous, but that is also another reason why I wanted to be a doula, because that's something my husband talks about. Like, no one paid attention to me. No one really asked me. Like, he was kind of like, you were the only one. And, of course, our moms, but like outside of that, no one really paid attention to what the partner wanted. And he's like, I felt very much left out until you started asking questions. So yeah, I agree with that. Men, partners in general, they need to be included as well.
Kira, with what everyone is saying, or I shouldn't direct this directly at you. I'm used to class, you guys, I'm sorry. But as far as men and partners, but I'm saying men specifically for a certain reason, with them being included in the process, a lot of times what I see happening is the men being told, and I'm saying men because oftentimes with women partners or non-binary partners, they're not given the same message. And I don't think a lot of people notice that is happening. A lot of times with male partners, they're told that they're incapable of supporting the birthing person before they even get the chance to. And I think that's something that we just have to stop doing. I asked my husband, I knew for a while that he was born of a cesarean. And I asked him recently if his father was in the room, and he was told he knew that his father wasn't there in the room when his mom, had the C-section and things like that. Because at that time, my husband is old, you guys, because at that time, men weren't allowed in the room when a cesarean was done. And I think the doctor said something as far as, oh, well, usually men faint, or usually they can't handle it, so we just leave them out in the hall. We just leave them in the elevator, in the room where we'll bring mom afterwards. And I think that that's just absolutely ridiculous, because when you tell someone over and over again, or when you tell a certain population over and over again that they can't do something, then they begin to behave within that parameter, because you've already told them what they are and are not capable of. And I think that just perpetuates this idea of like, oh, well, he can't change the baby's diaper, or, oh, well, he's not going to be of any help. And then we wonder why they operate in that way. So as a doula after graduation, I would love to just affirm, male partners over and over again, hey, you can do it. Like, you can do this. Come over here. We're going to do this together, just including them in that conversation. And I guess to loop back to what I said in the beginning, saying men, because oftentimes what I've seen, maybe just in my family, that when there is a female or non-binary partner, they often expect women to support, if that makes sense. So oftentimes in a same-sex couple with two women, the partner isn't being told, hey, you're not going to be of any help. They're being told, hey, get over here, we need your help. So I think we should start doing the same thing with men.
Thank you for that.
Okay, I agree. Yeah, I was gonna say I fully agree with that. And like here I mentioned, my husband was really, really supportive. And I know we talked about it very briefly, like, are you okay with this? And he was like, yeah, I'll do whatever you need me to do. I'll say whatever you need me to say. Like, that's just how he was. And so there is always that point in labor where you are just focused on breathing and can't answer questions. And he stepped right in to answer those questions for me. I remember my second delivery, I got asked 3 times if I wanted an epidural, even though I said no to the first one. And I also had it in my birth plan that I didn't want one. And so by the 3rd time, I think he raised his voice a little bit and scared the lady out the room, because he was like, she said she doesn't want one. We're not getting one. Don't ask her again. And so it's just, and he was confident in doing that and having that voice for me when I couldn't, because I'm focused on bringing a child into the world. So having partners that are educated and have that confidence is really something I want to help with too, making sure that they are confident in doing that, because that is definitely important.
And can I add one more thing to that? What Liana is saying, having a partner, male, female, whatever, they usually know the birthing person the best. So like for me, it was amazing to have my husband, because although I was like, I want to go as far as I can without the epidural, I got to 8 centimeters and he saw how much pain I was in. I could barely talk. And I remember he looked at me and he was like, you don't get a trophy if you don't get the epidural. There's no award. Like, either way, we're going to have a beautiful son. So if you really need it, stop trying to put yourself through this. And I remember just breaking down. I'm like, okay. But if he wasn't there to say that, like, I don't know what I would have done. I probably would have freaked out when it came time to push. And not that getting an epidural is wrong or right, but he understood me. He knew me well enough. We didn't have anyone in our room until it was almost time to push. So he actually, spoke up for me and was like, no, you need to get it. Like, you're tough, but it's okay if you want this. Like, so yeah, I agree. Got to educate the partners.
And I've actually seen that happen, Allison, firsthand, with this couple that I was with over the weekend. We discussed, because I always talk to my families during the prenatal stages about having a code word for pain medication, especially for my families that want to have a natural birth, because I explained to them, again, you don't get a trophy at the end. I mean, you get the same prize no matter what. So we talked about this code word. They never got back to me on the code word, and that was fine. But when I got to the labor and delivery suite, mom was tolerating contractions fine. She was already at about an 8 once I got there, and because things were moving very fast, and I don't think anybody anticipated that. So as she's just kind of laboring, she's like, okay, I think I need Stadol. I think I need something. And I'm like, are you sure? Because you are doing fine in between these. And I'm like, we're having full-blown conversation. Like, it's great. She hasn't had anything up until this point. And then she's like, no, I think I need something. And I'm like, okay, let's get through this next contraction and then kind of see where you are. And then she stopped and she's like, flamingo. That was the code word. The code word was flamingo. And the provider was like, hon, I just checked you and it's time to push. So I don't really think you need it. So we're just going to push this baby out. And literally 2 minutes after that, like, baby was out. But it's just funny to kind of have those experiences with families, but really see partners in tune with each other, and to say, like, flamingo, that was our word. Like, this is when we needed pain medication, but then they were already to the point where, like, baby was coming. So I want to move to our next question. And I want to hear from any of the panelists. Who are some of the people in the birthwork industry that you're currently following that are making changes and being change agents? And what are they doing in the community? I want to hear from you about some of those individuals who you're following and what they're doing currently to make change.
Do you mean specifically in our community?
It can be in our community, but across the board. I have a few that I'm going to list off in our community, but feel free for anyone that you're following.
I was gonna say Sacred Birth. Kiera, correct me if I'm not saying her name right. It's Sacred. Sorry, y'all. Sacred Birth Doula. There we go. She is a Black woman on Instagram and always is posting things to just raise awareness. She posts about belly binding, she has a whole packet for you can buy her I Know My Rights birth package, things like that. And everyone should check out her page. She has videos of home births, and I'm sure like any aspiring doula, I love watching home births. So yeah, Sacred Birth Doula, Mama to Mama, those are a few people that I personally follow. I love following people that just spit out the raw of what it is as far as the risks with hospital births. Not that there's anything wrong with hospital births if they're done properly, right? But she puts out there the things that you're getting into when you're walking into the hospital. She lets you know, like, hey, they're gonna say this, they're gonna throw this at you, and here's how you respond. She really prepares her followers, and I appreciate that.
I want to say Tiffany Townsend of De La Flor Midwifery right here in Grand Rapids. She is making a huge change in our community because we do not have any other Black midwives here that do home birth. And so she's kind of just making a way for a lot of people and letting a lot of people here know that she's here. So it's making huge changes in our community. She also does a sliding scale and helps people in need still be able to access midwifery even if they don't have the funds. She's just really changing the game here in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, I was also gonna say Tiffany. I feel so privileged that I get to work with her. I've seen her go from a doula studying to be a midwife to now being a midwife here. It's great getting to work with her. Also, I want to shout out Stephanie Mitchell, Dr. Midwife on Instagram. Everybody should follow her. She's building the first birth center in Alabama where midwifery is super restricted. Gosh, I have a very big community of doulas and midwives that I admire, but I'll stop now.
So I know locally here, Mariah is actually studying as a student midwife under Tiffany, and will soon be the first Indigenous midwife in our community, which is huge. So big shout out to Mariah for going down that pathway, and I'm excited to see you just become a midwife. Also locally here, all of these panelists are amazing doulas in our community. But one that is not here is Brittany, the Birth Witch on Instagram. Follow her. She is amazing. She's just a jack of all trades, but an amazing human being overall. And that's just one person in our community that is making a difference and being a change agent. Tiffany has been mentioned quite a few times. But I also want to mention a few other individuals that aren't necessarily right in Region 4 or in West Michigan, but a huge shout out to the Bomb Doulas over in Wisconsin. They are an amazing community-based doula program that I have the pleasure of knowing, and they are hosting some additional events this week in celebration of World Doula Week and Doula Appreciation Week. So I'm excited to shout them out. I also want to give a huge shout out to the Southeastern IBCLC group over in Detroit, Amina's Tree over in Detroit. Alan is an amazing birth advocate also over in Region 10. But there are just so many individuals. I could literally go down an entire list. But people are really making a change to make sure that Black and Brown families in particular have access to doula care, and that we truly are making an impact in eliminating barriers so that families do have that support, and that birthing individuals don't have to birth alone or not have that well-needed support. Now we are going to transition into our next question, and this is open to any of the panelists as well. So what sets Day One Doulas apart from all of the others? I know a few of you touched on it a little bit, but I would love to hear from you all a little bit more in depth on what makes you different than the other doulas in our community.
I would say, apart from all of us being Black and Brown, that we're a collective. So we are working together. It is, I try my best to explain to like my family and friends, but it's like we are our own business inside of a business. So we get to trying to explain it. We have people that we can go to. It's not just us by ourselves. We're learning from one another. We're getting advice from one another. And we're all open with one another. I think that's probably one of the best things about it, is that we can confide in one another and, you know, let people know our issues or what we're going through, and know that we have someone backing us up. And if not someone, like what, 11, 12 of us, like we're all here as a team. We like to say that we're here as a family. Like, this is what we are, and we're here to support one another through this entire journey, including after we get done and graduate. Like, we're still going to be here supporting one another, knowing that, like, oh, if I'm having a rough day or a rough night with a client, I can call Ayana or Symphony or Taylor or, you know, whoever, and just have that group of tightly knit people who are also here to support.
I wanted to add to that. I just feel like we're a community of doulas, and we have different perspectives, different skill sets, and we're bringing that together and kind of meshing it together and learning from each other and building this community together in order to support our community more.
I would also like to touch on the fact that there's a difference between, well, a slight difference, maybe a big difference, between being a community doula and a doula in general, or maybe a doula with their own practice that's maybe not just doing the community work. And I think a big thing about being a community doula is to not be afraid to sometimes get personal and understand that it's more than just, oh, okay, like how are you and baby doing? Okay, see you next week. It's having those conversations. Hey, how are you doing? How's your household doing? Remember that conversation we had last week about a certain struggle or a certain thing that was causing some anxiety? Like, how are you doing with that? And really creating like a genuine bond that we look forward to keeping up even after baby is born. And a lot of doulas that aren't community-based doulas don't go by the same practices. Of course, it's so important to be professional and to maintain, you know, a certain way, a code of conduct, I guess. But we enjoy, or we're, you know, the community doulas that are already doing the work enjoy building those bonds and those, you know, tight knit relationships, like Kira has told us so many times. And then for the student doulas, we look forward to, you know, being friends with our clients and understanding that, you know, my client might live around the corner from me. So, hey girl, how's it doing? You know, it's a community doula, which is a completely different type of thing. And I love it.
And I was going to add to what Symphony just said, as community-based doulas, we live in this community. It's not like we're just coming in, like you were saying, you can be around the corner or neighbors with someone you're working with. And I think that makes a huge difference as well. Like, we understand what is going on in our own community.
Thanks for sharing. And I know we've talked during our sessions about how some of my clients have just become my extended family at this point in life. And it's so funny. We're having this conversation because I got a text message earlier today from one of my previous clients, and she's like, hey, so are you going to be my doula or not? Like, of course I'm going to be your doula. This is baby number 3. But at this point, I mean, their family, I've accompanied this family throughout every single pregnancy. And it's just an amazing opportunity to truly walk alongside these families for each and every baby. But I want to open it up for anyone else that wants to provide any feedback on what makes Day One doulas different or what sets you apart. All right, so I am going to transition us out here because I do see that we are at time. So we're 1 minute over, but I just want to open it up. Is there anything that we're leaving out that we did not discuss that needs to be addressed? We want to give our panelists the opportunity to give any last minute thoughts before we head off. Any last or final thoughts from our panelists?
Tell everyone about doulas. We're super awesome and we're here to help. We're here to advocate and give you your space to speak freely and get what you want. We're going to do our best. Yeah, we're not here to judge you or put you down. We're here to just encourage and uplift you. So tell everyone about doulas because we want to be there for you guys.
I would like to part with you all by saying that, the Day One Doula Collective is very diverse. We keep saying Black and brown, which is diversity in and of itself. And I love being able to say that. This is my first time being a part of a class, a training, a collective, all different types of things where there's so many other people that look like me or can relate to me. This is my very first time experiencing that. I did graduate from East Grand Rapids High School and it was a beautiful education, but just not the same experience. And I am so grateful for it. But yeah, we're just very diverse. So if you are expecting or if you're expecting to expect and you want a doula that can relate with you on like a cultural level or shares an ethnic background with you, we are so diverse. There's doulas in the collective that are African American, that are Caribbean, that are Indigenous, that are Latinas, and it's just beautiful. It's absolutely amazing.
I would like to add that I feel like everyone deserves to have the birth that they desire. And if you need that extra support, then a doula is the right thing for you. A doula is for any person who needs extra support or feels like they need that extra helping hand. That's what we're here for.
At the Day One Doula Collective, we are truly rewriting the narrative and truly establishing what the new normal looks like for families. That support is okay and needing help is absolutely okay. But I do realize that we are at time. I want to thank all of our panelists for joining us tonight and sharing their insights on the Day One Doula Collective. For families that are interested in being supported by one of our doulas will finish their training come June, and we will actually start accepting referrals in the month of May. So you will shortly be seeing them out in the community supporting births, but you'll see them out in the community prior to that. But thank you all for joining us and have a good night.